This is Minutes of Horror Stories, episode 16. The Black Dahlia Murder, a tale of dark secrets. The city of Los Angeles was never prepared for the horror that would unfold on January 15, 1947. It was an ordinary winter day, with a dull gray sky and the usual hum of a busy city. But in the quiet neighborhood of Leimert Park, the tranquility was shattered when a passerby stumbled upon a gruesome sight. A body, severed in half, lying exposed in a vacant lot. It was the body of Elizabeth Short, the 22-year-old woman who had traveled to Los Angeles in search of stardom. She had been called the Black Dahlia in the press, a name that would forever be associated with one of the most brutal and disturbing murders in American history. Her body was mutilated beyond recognition. Not only had she been cut in half at the waist, but her skin had been drained of blood, leaving her pale and lifeless. Her mouth had been sliced into a grotesque grin. The corners of her lips stretched so unnaturally wide that it gave her face an almost demonic expression. The body was positioned with strange precision, as if the killer had taken time to arrange it. Her limbs were splayed out, and her face seemed frozen in an eternal, horrific smile. It was as though the killer had wanted to leave behind a permanent mark, a testament to the cruelty and meticulous nature of the act. The blood-soaked ground and the chilling sight of her body left a deep, lingering fear in the hearts of those who saw it. It was a crime that seemed too brutal, too calculated to comprehend. Elizabeth Short, known as the Black Dahlia, had arrived in Los Angeles in 1943, a small-town girl with big dreams of becoming an actress. She was described by friends and acquaintances as charming, full of life, and with striking beauty that could have made her a star. But there was a shadow behind her, the kind of darkness that had followed her from Boston to California. Elizabeth had lived a troubled life, marked by poverty, broken relationships, and rumors. Though she had been involved with several men, there were whispers that she was always searching for something, a kind of love that could never be found. Her journey to Los Angeles was filled with fleeting moments of hope and the crushing weight of disappointment. Elizabeth stayed in small apartments, moving from one place to the next, trying to find her place in the chaotic world of Hollywood. But her dream of stardom was always just out of reach. She spent her nights in bars and nightclubs, her days searching for casting calls, but fame seemed elusive. Those who crossed paths with her described a young woman who was desperate, yet hopeful, who tried to make connections but never quite found a place where she felt safe. On the night of her murder, Elizabeth was last seen at the Crown Grill, a bar she frequented. She had been out with friends, and there was no sign that anything was amiss. She left the bar late that night, slipping into a red convertible with a man who was never identified. It would be the last time anyone saw her alive. The next morning, a neighbor passing by the vacant lot discovered her body. The police were quickly called, and investigators arrived at the scene, only to be confronted with the grotesque reality of the murder. The brutality was shocking, but what was even more chilling was the lack of evidence. There were no fingerprints on the body, no signs of forced entry into her apartment, no blood trail leading away from the scene. It was as if the killer had vanished into thin air. Detectives searched Elizabeth's life for clues, but found few answers. They spoke with friends, lovers, and acquaintances, but no one had any clear idea of who would want to kill her, let alone commit such a horrific crime. The police had no leads, no suspects, and the case quickly became one of the most talked about murders in Los Angeles history. The media dubbed her the Black Dahlia, a name that would forever be linked to the mystery of her death. As the investigation dragged on, theories about the killer began to surface. Some believed it was a crime of passion, committed by someone who had been involved with Elizabeth. Others speculated that it was the work of a serial killer. There were even whispers of a connection to a former lover, a man who had once been obsessed with her and had allegedly made threats. But every theory turned cold. The police were left with a mountain of questions and no answers. What was most disturbing, however, was the eerie sense of calm that seemed to surround the crime. The killer had been methodical, calculating, and strangely at ease with the gruesome task at hand. The way Elizabeth's body was arranged suggested someone who had not been rushed, someone who had carefully planned the murder in every detail. There were no signs of a struggle, no indication that Elizabeth had fought back. It was as though she had been chosen, a victim who had been carefully selected, and the killer had taken their time to ensure everything was just so. Then, in the days following the discovery of her body, strange things began to happen. People reported seeing strange figures near the crime scene. Figures who seemed to vanish before anyone could get a clear look at them. Others claimed to have heard footsteps late at night, the sound of someone walking through the vacant lot where Elizabeth's body had been discovered. Some even said they could smell an odd, metallic scent lingering in the air, as if the echoes of that horrific night had never truly left the land. Theories about the murder ran wild, but nothing ever panned out. Investigators had no physical evidence to go on, no fingerprints, and no witnesses. The case quickly became a cold one, a haunting enigma that never saw resolution. But even as the years passed, the memory of Elizabeth Short's death lingered. The media frenzy around the murder never truly dissipated, and it remained a dark, unsolved chapter in the history of Los Angeles. In the decades that followed, numerous individuals came forward, claiming to know the identity of the killer. Some said it was a man who had once been involved with Elizabeth. Others insisted that the murder was connected to a famous Hollywood figure who had been hiding dark secrets. But despite the passage of time, no one was ever able to crack the case. The mystery of the Black Dahlia murder became a symbol of the city's darker underbelly, a reminder that even in a place full of glamour and fame, darkness could hide just beneath the surface. By the 1960s, the house where Elizabeth had lived before her death was abandoned, its walls rotting, the windows dark and empty. Locals said that at night, the house seemed to come alive with sounds, scraping noises, faint whispers, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoing through the empty rooms. People claimed they could see shadows moving in the windows, figures that appeared only to vanish when they looked closer. It was as if Elizabeth's spirit had never left the place, trapped forever in the place where her life had ended so violently. As the years passed, the house was torn down, but the stories didn't end. Those who lived in the area still spoke of strange occurrences. New tenants who moved into the area reported hearing disturbing noises late at night, footsteps pacing, the faint sound of someone crying, and occasionally the horrifying sound of an axe being sharpened, as if the killer had returned to finish what they had started. It was a sound that no one could quite explain, a sound that still sent chills down the spine of those who lived nearby. And then, in the 1980s, a former detective involved in the case came forward with a new theory. He revealed that there had been a missing link in the investigation, a strange connection between Elizabeth Short's murder and several other unsolved crimes in the area. The detective believed the killer had been someone who had stalked Elizabeth for months before finally making his move. But just as quickly as the new theory had emerged, it too was forgotten, swallowed by the endless sea of unsolved mysteries. Today, the Black Dahlia murder remains one of Los Angeles's most notorious unsolved crimes. The name Elizabeth Short may have faded from the headlines, but her story continues to haunt the city. In the dead of night, if you stand in the spot where her body was discovered, you might feel an eerie chill creeping up your spine. You might hear the faint echo of footsteps, or catch a glimpse of a shadow flickering in the corner of your eye. And if you listen closely enough, you might even hear the faintest whisper of a name, Elizabeth Short. The Black Dahlia, whose life was taken in the most horrifying way, whose story was buried in the shadows, but whose ghost still lingers, waiting for the truth to be revealed.